Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're at. This is Dr. Diane Sanchez, and I'm going to discuss talent, careers, and development, Chapter 9 of your book. Here's our learning objectives. Identifying the importance of talent management and discuss 2 reasons it may be difficult. Explain what succession planning is and its steps. Differentiate between organization-centered and individual-centered career planning. List options of developmental needs analysis. Discuss 3 career issues that organizations and employees must address. Identify several management development methods. So, what is talent management? It is strategic talent management is identifying the most important jobs in a company that provide a long-term competitive advantage. It creates HR policies to develop employees so that they can effectively work in these jobs. Let me go back to this. So let's talk about strategic management a little bit as it applies to your organizations, and I'll use my experience with 9/11 at American Airlines. Prior to American Airlines 9/11, we had a very different talent management strategy where key jobs were important pre-9/11. Then after 9/11 happened, we changed our talent management philosophy and really identified different positions that were most important jobs in the company that provided a long-term competitive advantage. So what's important for you is really ask yourself as HR practitioners and your business partners, what are the jobs that drive your business now? Because talent management, succession planning, long gone are the days of 5 years of succession planning. Now we're planning 2 years in advance because our businesses are changing so rapidly. So you really want to build competencies to establish your company in the right ways. You've got to reduce your risks. And so that's what really strategic talent management is all about. Now, maximizing rewards of talent management, development of current employees or hiring outside talent, creation of talent pools, and broad competencies in employees that reduce uncertainty in the need of personnel. Maximizing rewards of talent management, again, means utilization of more short-term talent forecasts that are more likely, more reliable. And that goes back to succession planning. Talent management used to be done, with a 5-year path, and now it's really 2 years that we're thinking about because it is like I said, our businesses are changing on a daily basis. Establishing a balance of ownership over career development between companies and workers, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Talent management in perspective. Our choices for dealing with talent needs are to emphasize stability in employment and develop talent internally. So studies have shown that really employees who get promoted from within are more likely to be successful because they understand the culture, they understand the politics within that organization rather than bringing somebody from the outside. And we see that a lot with our CEO turnover. Develop agility as an organization and buy talent as needed. So there's always a philosophy in the company. Are we going to promote 80% inside and 20% outside? Are there key positions we need to just go out and buy talent, which is recruit talent outside the organization because they bring something unique to the organization? It's really a philosophy that the organization needs to have in order for the HR department to adequately meet the needs of companies. And you can use a combination of the two, right? Developing talent internally and buying talent. I highly suggest to HR practitioners that you decide by levels. So at your C-suite, what is it going to be? At your director, vice president level, what is it going to be? Managerial kind of levels, and then of course our employees. And if you have that strategy, if you have those percentages, it makes it a lot easier for your recruiters, for the HR department to really plan. Okay, so this is a great chart, talent management process. It talks on the left about acquisition and staffing, and then talent management components. So that this whole new nomenclature of talent management has really morphed into something more than just staffing or recruiting or placement. It's morphed into training, development, performance appraisals, compensation, career planning, succession planning. I mean, look at the life cycle of your employees, and that is really the talent management components. And then the results and work outcomes is building management talent, creating important job talent, positive work attitudes, and retention. When employees see that you're really developing people from the inside, there's a greater sense of commitment towards the organization in some industries. In other industries, buying talent is going out there and getting the latest, greatest techies or whatever can be also highly exciting for employees. So again, it's based on your culture. Now, talent management information systems. A lot is going on in this space. Companies like SuccessFactors and other HRIS systems are able to integrate all the pieces of talent management into one manageable whole. So looking at this chart, training, development, appraisals, compensation, career planning, all of that can be done in a talent management system that automates things quickly. That's a benefit of having it, although they are highly expensive. It pulls together the HR, finance, and operations data to get insight on talent that would otherwise be difficult. So, I mean, many of you who have a lot of employees, it's hard to manage. It's hard to get your hands around it, especially if you have antiquated systems. Talent management systems can just absolutely be terrific. It's also a tool to aid decision making. I mean, think about it. If you have an opening for a vice president position, instead of posting a job or so forth, you can go into your talent management system and actually look around the world or globally, depending on the size of your company, who has those competencies, and really see if they're interested or they'd be a good individual to consider for the position. Now, scope of talent management, target jobs. The first thing you've got to do is you've got to identify the right jobs that will be the focus of talent management efforts. So, the same jobs aren't all equal. In some organizations, it can focus on the CEO and executive jobs. Other organizations may have just their mid-level managers are their key jobs. it really depends on where and what your organization values are at the time. But you've got to really find, I usually do a talent target group and then target jobs. Target jobs being jobs that really drive the organization's profitability. That can be sales, that can be operations, depending on what your organization is. Those are the kind of key jobs. Let's say sales managers or sales reps, or cost analysis individuals, whatever that drives profitability. And then those target jobs can be target groups. So management for, first line supervisors may be target jobs that you're going to really focus on from an HR perspective. Now, high potentials, those are your hypos, they're called, and they have promise for advancement in the organization. Again, they're supposed to be the top 10% of your organization. It can be a challenge to determine those individuals because of the competency models are very different than the performance competencies, right? So this is really finding the potential of individuals, not their past performance, but do they have potential for those greater opportunities in your organization. And the approaches to keep hypos engaged, a lot of individuals or companies like GE and IBM establish programs for the hypos that may have helped them with their retention of hypos and to keep them engaged. On the downside, there's always a downside to that, is that some of the other employees that maybe were not in that top 10% of hypos may have felt not as respected, not as important. And so you've got to recognize their talents, include them in the development process if you have hypos. Provide substantive and flexible opportunities to gain visibility in the firms or the organizations. Provide good mentors. And then competency models. So what does a person who is ready to be moving up in your organization look like? Obviously, they've got knowledge, skills, and abilities from other positions or from various jobs, but what do they need to achieve in their new potential new position, and identifying those competencies that may not be reflective in your performance evaluation. And I use things like strategic planning, problem solving, analytical problem solving, crisis management, depending on what your industry is. That's very different than what could be in your performance review competencies. So it's very much a different sort of program that you got to be really, really clear with your employees on the differences. So there's libraries of competency models maintained by some companies. It ensures efficient talent planning. Then there is what we call talent pools, which avoid creation of a narrow specialized jobs, but create a pool of talented people. And so that is really a wonderful opportunity to get pools of people that you can disperse into different jobs as they come up. Career tracks are a series of steps that an individual follows to become ready to scale up. At American, we moved high potentials around every 2 years. They may go work in a country like Brazil or Europe, and then come back and work in finance, and then come back for 2 years and work in sales and work in operations. those individuals who moved around every couple of years knew that they were hypos and that they would one day become very critical to our organization. So those are the kind of career tracks I'm talking about. Assessment, predict a person's potential for the job, and that can be IQ tests, personality, aptitude tests. Depends. You can send them to an executive assessment center, which is highly done at the C-suite, where you're going to an assessment center for a week where people assess your ability to do various different things. And then development risk sharing. Companies encourage talented employees to volunteer for development training. So, executive MBA programs that employees can join, that they want to be considered for those high potential positions. That's why we have tuition reimbursement, those kinds of things. It reduces the risk of developing talent of an employee who would choose to leave the organization with skills gained. So, they may not be that top 10%, but they're still critical to your organization. So, and could one day be that top 10%. All right, succession planning. Preparing for the inevitable movements of the personnel that creates holes in the hierarchy that needs to be filled by other qualified individuals. Should include a well-designed development system for employees to reach their full potential. Right people should be placed in the right jobs to obtain organizational goals. And this is a great chart on succession plan process. Very much the same. Actually, no, this one isn't. This is not the 9.2. In your book, wrong chart. In your book, 9.2, the succession planning process, this chart is not it, but it takes you through integrate with strategy, what competencies will be needed, which jobs will be critical, how should critical positions be filled, will international assignments be needed. Then, of course, getting your involvement from the top management. Does the CEO participate in succession planning? Are high-level executives involved? Are top executives mentoring and coaching others? Is there authority and accountability for succession goals? And then assessing key talent. Does the employee have important competencies? What's missing? Do assessment evaluations provide useful information? Are results examined to determine individual talents? Are individual and career goal interests compatible? Then you follow up with development practices. How can important competencies be developed? My example of strategic planning, how would you develop those? Can an individual interact with the executive or board members? Can talent pools be created? What are the incentives for individual development? And then, of course, monitor and evaluate. Are there metrics? Are the positions filled internally, externally? Is the process viewed favorably? So it's a great chart that really highlights the succession planning process. All right, so it's the identification of potential emergency replacements for critical jobs, and as I use my example from American Airlines, our succession planning process became very critical after 9/11 because we lost a lot of talent. Many individuals, executives wanted to get out of the airline industry, and so we were constantly talking about succession planning and who would fit where, and were they able to meet our needs. Other successors who will be ready with some additional development. You always have a ready now, and then 1 to 2 years ready then. So how do you get those people ready? Now, the role of HR is really important in succession planning. You've got to be functioning as an objective voice. increasing rigor in the program, you know, asking the right questions, interpreting the data collected about employees who might fill future positions, being available for job candidates seeking counseling, enhancing the development opportunities in the firm, and then, of course, track and evaluate the individual development efforts. It's a lot of work, and especially when you are in an industry that's very fluid, that's fast-paced. This can be, you know, really a whole department, which, you know, I was lucky to have a whole department at American that helped me with the succession process so that we could make sure we had people ready. And at Boeing, too. At Boeing, we had a very rigorous development succession planning department that worked on the moves for the techie kind of individuals as well as our leadership. Okay, so global succession planning. The growth of immigrants results in employers facing legal and workforce diversity issues. That's a big challenge. And growing concern for employers is replacing those senior managers with international experience. I mean, we've got, as most of you know, baby boomers retiring, and the generation X and Y will now take over, and that is a challenge, getting them ready for those key positions. Succession in small companies are closely held by organizations, and you can understand why. Few formalize their succession plans. They lack succession planning is one of the biggest threats, and address development needs of the successor to avoid potential problems. I see this in my company. I have a lot of small companies that really have no succession planning in place, and their owners are really started the business but don't know what to do after they're retiring. Now, this is a talent inventory grid, and it's in your book. It's really something we in human resources need to know very well. And let me explain. On the left is potential, and on the right bottom is performance. So performance is important, right? We measure it every year. And we know goals, objectives to meet, and competencies as it relates to the performance. And hopefully the better performance, the more fully I would call good performer an employee is. They've reached their height of their performance. Potential is a lot harder to determine. What are the potential competencies? Do you need a knowledge of globalization, economics, strategic planning, those high-level areas that aren't in your performance? And then, do they have a strong potential? I mean, are they high performers with high potential? Then they're your hypos. If they have good performance but strong potential, and you can see that a lot in the management ranks, then what are you going to do to get them ready for those future positions? That's really the real good work in human resources. That's where the fun starts happening, developing those lower level employees, managers, first-line managers, into eventually becoming your directors and vice presidents. So you've got a couple of decisions you've got to make. Make or buy, which is develop competitive human resources or hire individuals who are already developed. The advantages, of course, of buying talent is that the company can tap into new knowledge, perspectives, obtain needed skills that will help the company. I see this a lot in the technology industry. The disadvantages, it can be costly. Risk associated with hiring unproven employees. Risk associated with hiring unproven employees. That's double, but I don't know why that slide's wrong. But there is a little bit of a challenge that can be associated with it. Now, making the talent, the company can provide employees required competencies and advancement opportunities. Highly cost-effective employees are already known. The disadvantages is limited ability to secure new knowledge perspectives. So that's why I talk about the mix is, think about your different levels and what is going to be, at the executive level, your make or buy percentages. I always liked to do that. And then metrics. There's wide range of metrics are used to measure the impact of succession planning process. It is really important that you do have metrics for it. Your board will ask for those metrics. What are the key measures that you want to have? Identifying the reduced costs of turnover, obviously, how succession planning and its follow-up may lead to high performance and organizational profitability. Now, I will tell you right here, metrics are terrific. And if you go to the Saratoga Institute, which is owned by PwC, Pricewaterhouse, they have amazing metrics. Those metrics are what HR practitioners use all around the country, and they're outstanding. And they do have succession planning matrix measurements that will help you if you're developing these kind of metrics. Computerized succession planning models. When we talked about the talent management systems, there's some really neat things. And you can go out there and look at various different talent management models. It's pretty great in the 21st century as opposed to when I was growing up in HR, everything was done by paper. So you can do via intranet. Employees can access and update their databases, review their jobs and career opportunities, complete skill and career interest self-surveys, and numerous other items. Now, the benefits of formal succession planning is always having a highly qualified individuals ready for future job openings, which in our moving world and our business is going so fast, you definitely want to always have those kinds of people ready. Providing career opportunities and plans for the individuals are awesome. Helps retention and performance motivation. Provides a basis for continual review of staffing requirements and organizational changes that occur over time. That is key. What worked 2 years ago, what was seen as a high potential 2 years ago, may not be the high potential that is needed now. Enhancing the brand of the company and establishing the organization as a desirable place to work, especially with our Gen Ys who are looking for career opportunities and progression. Succession planning mistakes, focusing only on CEO and top management. That's why I talked about those target jobs that really drive profitability, but also target positions. I think first-line managers, first-line supervisors are critical and key to the organization, but all of you may have different perspectives depending on your organization. Starting too late when openings occur, that's always a challenge. Not linking to the strategic planning process, very important. And then allowing the CEO to direct planning and make all the succession decisions. And this is really important, is that it has to be a group process. And if the CEO is making all the decisions, then you don't truly have a robust succession plan. It's based on what he is deciding. And so it's important that you have a strong HR department to facilitate and guide the CEO to look at other perspectives as well as executives to participate in it. And then, of course, your board members also like to get participated in the succession planning and looking only internally for succession candidates. Now, let's jump to career planning. Career planning is so important. What is a career? A series of work-related positions a person occupies for their lifetime. And Changing nature of careers. The old model, a person worked up the ladder in one organization, is becoming more rare. The new model is changing jobs in companies every few years, and we've seen that, especially with our millennials. Now, these are the different views of careers, and I just love these. Protein career. Individuals adapt to career demands by shaping their own knowledge, skills, and abilities. And I think you're going to see more and more of this happening. Career without boundaries. Careers can span many companies or industries. This again is, I think, a 21st century perspective. And it really is things like, going from an entrepreneur company to a corporation, those kinds of things is amazing. Post-corporate career, individuals build a career working in smaller businesses and starting entrepreneur ventures. Our country has been built on entrepreneurs, so I see a lot of this as well. And then Kaleidoscope career, building a career by focusing on important employment factors. And that can be things like, work-life balance. And if you're a single mom, you're going to focus on employment factors that get you to what you need to get to help your family, those kinds of things. And then hybrid, defined by both protein, and career without boundaries. So these are kind of the new nomenclature of the different views of careers, which is so fascinating to me. Organizational-centered career planning focuses on identifying career paths that provide for a logical progression of people between jobs. Career paths, employees' movement through opportunities over time. Employer websites and career planning helps them, right? Many employees have career sections in their websites, and an employer can link the external world with the internal. Employees' career paths, they need to know their strengths and their weaknesses. So, and it's used for career assessment, information, and instruction. Technology has been terrific these days, and we've got a lot of telecommuters. They need to have access to be able to make sure that they can get assessed and provide the information that the company needs to know about them. We've got to accommodate individual career needs now, with more and more individuals wanting balance or moving globally. Provide opportunities for appropriate work-life balance, permitting telecommuting for fast-track employees unwilling to relocate. And individual-centered career planning focuses on an individual's career rather than the organizational needs. So that's the difference. You have an organization-centered career planning or an individual one. So this gives you the both. Organizational perspective, we talked about this. Individual perspective is identifying their KSAs, where they are in their career, assess alternative career paths inside and outside the organization, and then of course personal changes they may be going through. That is all what encompasses a person's career. Individual-centered career planning is they do self-assessment. They get feedback on reality. They setting career goals. Individual career choices are based on their interests, their self-image, their personality, and their social background. This is a great chart because it talks about just general career periods that people experience through their careers. In your young 20s and 30s, you're obviously exploring jobs, you're interested in a lot of things, you're interested in external rewards. You know, your mid-careers, 30s to 50s, you're advancing your career, dealing with lifestyle preferences, you've got kids, or you've chosen not to have kids, or you want to go back to school, and you're looking for you know, those companies that have your same values, that value your contribution, interested in your well-being. Then us late career people, you know, we need to update skills. We need to really see where we want to go in the future. We're interested in mentoring others. You know, what is our career continuance? We can become a little disengaged, and then of course our career end is planning for retirement. But some of them need part-time work because they can't afford. I mean, we're living up until the, you know, 88, and most people retired at 65. You've got a good 25 years that you can really think about what you're going to do, and some people go back to work. So here's a potential career path. Beginning at a large company, acquiring skills, expanding your network to develop skills and make contacts, build your reputation, change industries, which I did a lot. I loved it. Learned about lots of different industries. And then sustaining, refreshing your skills, taking sabbaticals, seeking education, new experiences, and then moving to a temp employee or contractor, or becoming a professor. How's that? Okay, career transitions. I'm going to let you all go through these slides. It talks about supervisors and feedback and what happens during time loss. It's very much in your book. Now, retirement issues. Adjustment away from the demands of the workplace to a greater psychological well-being achieved outside the job. Hard to do, really, really hard to do. When people retire, there's a lot of areas of adjustment. They need a lot of self-direction. They need a feeling of belonging. I really always like to sit with the retirees and make sure that they've got some connections and plans with family, friends, or potential work. They want to satisfy achievement needs. They need personal space and goals. You know, a lot of retirees will come back to the workplace and become mentors. The other thing that we're doing a lot in industries is they have incredible knowledge. So their job knowledge transfer. A lot of hospitals are bringing back retired doctors and nurses who have incredible knowledge in ER rooms and OR rooms, teaching our younger physicians and nurses how to handle certain crises and so forth. They're a wonderful wealth of knowledge. And there's a means of gradual disengagement between the organization and the individual. Phased in retirement, like I said, some people will do part-time work and then part-time retire. That's always a great opportunity for retirement. And then consulting agreements and callbacks. That's what a lot of hospitals are doing now. Okay, so common individual career problems. This is throughout your career. Obviously, now we have two types of career paths: the technical career path, and the professional career path, which is management, or you can go up and down just being technical, which means you don't want to manage people. Then there's women and their career sequencing. Sequencing is they leave the workforce for a little bit to have children, and then they come back, obviously, to get back into the workforce. Global career concerns. I mean, repatriation is very much a challenge, and then dual career couples. You know, relocation and moving them around. It's really a challenge. So there's a lot of challenges in the career planning perspective. Now, development. Efforts to improve employees' ability to handle a variety of assignments, to cultivate employees' capability beyond those required by the current job. This is really a shift from what's going on in human resources. Is on the right, we've always kind of had a training perspective. But training's short term. It really is based on just short term. What we need to move to is more of a long-term development, understanding concepts, develop judgment and capabilities, promoting from within. That really should be our goal, is to become more of a development than a training department. Possible development focuses for managers: action orientation, quality decision-making skills, ethical values, technical skills, team building, developing subordinates, direct others, dealing with uncertainty. You know, I just think what happened in the 80s, 90s, and even in 2000, we cut our training budgets. And I think who got shortchanged was our managers. And many managers were promoted because they were very good technicians, but they didn't get the thorough development of being a manager. And for us HR practitioners, I think that's the biggest challenge, is to make sure that they get all of these, especially ethical values, technical, team building skills, because it's necessary for the future of our workforce. For the technical personnel, it's the ability to work under pressure, ability to work independently, solve problems quickly, and to use past knowledge in a new situation. So these are the possible development focuses: is creating organizations that promote lifelong learning and development. And your book gives examples of lawyers, CPAs, teachers that have continuing education as part of their licenses. I think we need to do it in corporate America more, but it's important. For other employees, it's just making sure to expand their existing skills and just redevelop them. It's important for us to do that as technology changes, as industries change. We've got to prepare for different jobs, promotions, and new jobs that are coming out. I mean, some jobs we had 5 years ago are gone, and new jobs are spurring up, especially in technology. Redeveloping people in the capabilities they need is logical and important. So, assessment centers is a development needs analysis. They can assess or give you collection of instruments and exercises designed to diagnose individual development needs. They work well. Assessment centers are expensive. Then you've got psychological testing. Again, you've got to be cautious about those. Personality tests, intelligence tests. You know, that can be a challenge as well. You've got performance appraisal, source of development information there. So that's all challenge. Development metrics is also a big challenge, and I know many HR departments have been skinnied down since the financial crisis. So this whole area has gone by the wayside, and I think it's something that's so important for our employees that we start in the development space. Can can we develop these programs? So these are the HR development approaches. You can do on-site approaches. You can do off-sites. And you can create a learning organization, corporate universities, e-development. I think more and more companies are investing in the learning organization so that they have the ability to really job share, information share, and then of course corporate universities. Places like GE had wonderful corporate universities, but being able to have coaching and those mentoring, since employees are working from home more than ever, they're going to need to have a connection with somebody other than bosses, and maybe they need mentors. So management lessons learned from job experience is another great chart. This is supervisor learning or manager learning. These are really interesting because it talks about the job transitions, new people that they may have, problems, changes in responsibilities, some of their challenges starting or changing some major organizational feature, having decision-making responsibility, influencing others, you know, and then some of the obstacles: a bad job, a difficult boss, demanding clients, unsupported. But you know what I find is if we can do pre-supervisor training, it can give a very good perspective to people about what the role of a manager is and what you need to learn and how you have to handle things, and the differences from going from a technical position to managing people and having that self-awareness. So I think that's a great opportunity if your company can afford it. So you've got to train supervisors in basic management responsibility, time management, and of course human relations. All right, leadership development. This is important when you are developing leaders, is having modeling, which is having managers or management being able to model the human behavior that should be projected. And really, human beings learn by modeling. We learn from our parents. So that is giving them exposure on observing a model and what they do. And then coaching. Coaching is important. You know, somebody being able to explain the appropriate behaviors and what actions they should take, and being objective and reinforce positive behavior. And then management mentoring is experienced managers helping individuals to learn what it takes to be a good manager, and you've got to have good managers in that mentoring program. So, and then of course executive education, and that can be going back and getting your MBA, which many of you learn lots of different things through our school. This is a great chart. Stages in management, mentoring relationships. You're less experienced managers. It hopefully admires the senior manager's competence. They start gaining self-confidence in the 2 to 5 year they're cultivating. It starts with initiation, cultivation, separation, and redefinition. So it's important to have these kinds of mentoring relationships, especially in the management ranks, because management is so critical to the success of the organization. Now, problems with management development efforts: failing to conduct adequate needs assessment, trying out fad programs or training methods, substituting training for selecting qualified individuals, and encapsulating development when an individual learns new methods and ideas but returns to a work unit that still allows the old methods. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this chapter. It is very exciting in the world of talent management and development. Again, if you have any questions, by all means, put it out on our discussion board or send me an email. Thanks for attending the webcast.